Okay, so it's time to take a look at the tier 10 assault Battlecruisers, and I will start with my favorite, the Tornado. Now back in the day, I used to fly the Tornado 1 and 2 quite often, but I never really tried the tier 10 one, and today I will do just that. So let's take a quick look at the ship trait description. The roll bonus minus 95%. Large turret power grid requirements. Advanced large cannon operation bonus will give you minus 6% large cannon activation time, plus 5% large cannon accuracy fall-off. Advanced battlecruiser command bonus, plus 5% flight velocity, and plus 5% extra scan resolution. Overall, pretty solid. The Tornado has 2 drones, 7 high slots, 3 medium slots, 6 slow slots, 3 combat and 3 engineering rigs, a decent cargo hold, decent defense of 39,000, the Tornado is a shield tank, capacitor 3005 gigajoules, 576 seconds is the recharge time, 13.04 gigajoule per second is the recharge rate. 7 targets, it can lock 7 targets, signature radius is quite small for a battlecruiser, and most importantly, the Tornado is very fast. I would say this might be the fastest battlecruiser in the game, especially with a large micro warp drive or afterburn. So on to the build. I have exactly 1.4 thousand DPS, well, not exactly, but pretty close. I have the C-type large strike cannons or C-type large artillery cannon, 72.89 and 91.11 accuracy fall-off, 1.93 is the tracking, a scrambler, web, target painter, dual drones, a large mic warp drive, a damage control, 1 medium capacitor battery, gyro stabilizer, and dual tracking computers. A mix between PvE and PvE. It can do both. As for the rigs, I have dual burst radiators, and this time I have one arm bit extension rig, auxiliary thruster, and dual polycarbon engine housing for the engineering rigs. Now the nanocore, I picked the illusionary ghost just because it does look nice, and I usually pick the core based on its looks, not because of the stats, but the stats is only the primary attribute is active. Here you can take a look at the other stats that we can get, but I mostly use this core for the looks because it makes the ship very pretty. And the core will be on the primary attribute throughout the whole video. Of course, you have a lot of other core options for this boat. The clear sky core is actually very good because it can give you extra speed, and extra speed with the large mic warp drive means that this boat will be extremely fast, and DPS is not everything. Speed on the Tornado is also a very important attribute, and a lot of players use the large prop Tornado, including myself, and that's the way how this ship does seem to work the best. 72,000 hit points, which is, I would say, quite a lot for a ship that has basically no tank. The capacity 2 minutes, speed 354 meters per second. Now as for the implants, you have 2 options. You have the barrage implant that I really like, and you have the sniping technology, the sniper implant, and this is the implant that most Tornado pilots use. Basically, it can give you crazy range, and it can also give you some fantastic tracking. Overall, a solid implant for a hit and run operation, solid implant for basically sniping, what the name of the implant suggests. And I'll just quickly show you the secondaries that I would use for this boat. Of course, you can pick the secondaries that work the best for you. It all depends on the situation and from the purpose of the ship. As for the general units, I will probably focus on afterburner or micro warp drive speed, so the output boost, and I will focus on the range bonus for the tracking computers. Basically, maximum possible speed and maximum possible range. Although you can keep the default value on the tracking computers. Sometimes the default values are going to be important, especially if tracking is very important. You can combine the range and tracking if you don't use a focused general unit for the specific attribute of the tracking computer. Okay, well, let's undock and let me quickly show you the maximum possible range that you can get. I think I can hit targets up to 1,000 kilometers with the current build. I will definitely try that out. Perhaps I might be breaking my own record with the maximum possible hit range. My maximum hit range with the Trollnado was 450 kilometers. I did manage to kill a ship at 450 kilometers 2 years ago without any implants, just with the tracking computers, and that was a record for a very long time. Okay, well, the sniping implant does have a very nice animation. That's one thing that I have to say. And the evasive maneuvers, basically it makes your ship line faster if you have to warp, but it's not going to be giving you any extra range. 182 and 228 kilometer with one, 375 and 300 kilometer with the tracking computer, and 502 kilometer is the accuracy as well, 402 kilometer optimal range. So I could technically hit targets up to 850, but I'm fairly sure I can hit up to 1,000, and I'll definitely check that out. Now the snipe charge does go to 0 once you fire, and basically you have to wait for the cycle to complete, and then you have to charge the implant again, which is okay. That's how the implant works. 5,505.19 meter per second is the micro warp drive speed. Quite speedy, and I would say it does appear to be quite maneuverable as well. It is extremely difficult to catch a Trollnado using a large propulsion module, whether it be an afterburner or a micro warp drive. They are fast and they are ridiculously hard to catch, and they can easily snipe you. Basically, a fast moving sniper that keeps you constantly at 100 plus kilometers. Yeah, that is something that is not easy to catch. And the evasive maneuver actually reduced my speed, but now I should be warping faster, moving faster. Very good for warping out if necessary. After all, snipers are dead if they get caught up close. And even the inertia will be enough to make your ship glide away from scramblers and webs. So even if you get scrambled, you still have the inertia to carry your ship. In a lot of cases, will be enough to push you out of the web and scrambler range again. So you can click on the afterburner or micro warp drive. It works much better with afterburner because the afterburner is unaffected by the scramblers, and the inertia will still make your ship fly even when webbed. Very difficult to pin down ship. In the right hands, the Trollnado is a almost unkillable ship because of how hard it is to catch. Okay, and now the barrage implants. Well, I'm trying to figure out what kind of DPS I'll get with the barrage implant. Your guess is as good as mine. We all know how the barrage implant works, although the DPS on the barrage implant is not really that applicable in most scenarios in the actual game. It looks nice on paper, but once you actually start using it, you realize that it's not really that good in the long run. You will definitely see that crazy DPS lasts for like 5 seconds, and a good build with a any damage control can actually absorb all that the barrage can offer. But it's still useful. I like it. It works for for the right build, and level 15, level 30 for the barrage is basically what I would recommend, and I would not recommend to go above 30 because there is basically not much going to be gained after that. It only looks nice on paper, but in practical use there is not much. 6.1 thousand DPS with the barrage implant with the large artillery cannons, and well, the barrage implant can work with the large turrets, although it does reduce the range, and because of that reduced range I would say use the sniping implant over the barrage, but you can counter that by using the general unit that does increase the range with the tracking computers, so you can technically get that up to 100 plus kilometers with good tracking and with good rate of fire. So there is a lot of different options and ideas that you can combine. Now the large afterburner. Now I actually have a lot more power grid. The Tornado has a lot of power. It can easily fit multiple large modules. And for the afterburner, I'll just use a couple new units, output boost for the afterburner, and everything else can basically stay the same. Now let's undock and let's see the maximum speed that I'll get with the afterburner. The afterburner can be good if you don't like to have that huge signature radius. After all, a micro warp drive does increase your signature radius by a lot, and your ship will be the size of a battleship basically. While that means it's easy to hit, a dreadnought will be able to hit you very easily. It's difficult to catch with ships that don't have a lot of range, so I guess in a lot of ways it's a good option. 2228 meters per second, very fast, again pretty good speed. And let's check out the maneuverability, because you get a lot of inertia if you oversize a module. However, with the Tornado that doesn't seem to be a big problem, because it does accelerate pretty quickly. It does go quickly in a straight line, and you can technically do turns, although I would avoid using sharp turns because sharp turns will definitely slow down your ship quite a bit. But with the afterburner that should not be a big problem, because you will accelerate fast enough and you will get to top speed in no time. So the afterburner or micro warp drive, both useful in different scenarios. In my case, I personally like to use a oversized micro warp drive because of the crazy speed that you can get. Some of the players that I know run the large propulsion module up to 8 kilometers per second with a proper nanocore, with proper level ups, and of course with a different build. So the Tornado is extremely fast. Now we can do a build with triple tracking computers, one gyro stabilizer, and the damage control as well as the afterburner is there as well. And you can sacrifice the gyro stabilizer into a battery if capacitor is a problem. And you can also do a tank build. Now this ship has 6 slow slots, and the Tornado has the potential to be a very good ship for baiting, very good ship for PvP. Overall, it has the potential to be a very tanky battlecruiser. You can go with a active build, you can go with a passive tank build with extenders. Both work. Now, why are my modules such a big mess? It was fine a second ago. Well, let me quickly adjust the modules. So this is more of a balanced build between DPS and tank. I personally don't use balanced builds a lot. I go either for full DPS or full tank. That's just how I got used to fly my ships. But you get some pretty good tank. 106,000 hit points on the Tornado 3. 21,000 shield hit points, which is actually really solid. With the damage control, you get 316,000 hit points, which is solid. 158.30 meter per second with the medium afterburn, which is okay speed. Large capacitor battery, large shield booster, and I could technically slap one more large module. 6.7 thousand DPS with the barrage implant, although that DPS is just, you know, it looks nice on paper, but again, in real combat, it's not going to work as good as it looks. So that's based on my experience using the barrage implant. And this build, I use this build on most of my PvP ships. Triple gyro stabilizers, extender, micro-drift, and a damage control. This is a low-sec hunting build. Basically, you drop the ship on target in close range. If they're a little bit further away, use the micro-drift to reach the target. And well, for this one, I will use the barrage implant because that's basically the implant that I run on my Cinnabal and Macarial. On the Macarial, I reached about 16,000 DPS. On the Cinnabal, 7,000 DPS. On my main account, of course, that's the DPS that I roll my Cinnabal in game. And on the Macarial as well. The general units will be focused on gyro stabilizer. Basically, you want maximum possible rate of fire, maximum possible DPS, maximum possible damage bonus. So the gyro stabilizer general units are recommended. You can also slide in a extender passive hit point boost that does improve the tank. Also a really solid idea. But first, let's undock and let's check out the active stats on the Trollnado. I really like this setup on most of my PvP ships because it just works so good. The extender does eat most of the incoming damage fairly easily. With the micro-drive, it's 1.6 km per second, 85,000 hit points, 31,000 shield hit points. When the damage control is activated, 13 seconds of super high resistance, 251,000 hit points, 2,500 DPS, which is, you know, really good, solid so far, no issues with that. With the barrage implant on, this is where the fun begins. The extender does give you a nice little boost when needed, of course. 10,002.08 DPS. Alrighty then. With one gyro stabilizer, it's 12,000. With the second gyro stabilizer, it's 14,000. And with the third one, it's 16,283.30 DPS. And the catch is, in real combat, that DPS will be practically useless. Because one damage control, and yeah, it absorbs it all. So that's why I recommend that you use damage controls on your ship. It will save you against a barrage implant. It will save you against most implants in most cases. Well, at least it looks nice. I mean, it turns the turrets into machine guns basically, and the game glitches out. And of course, there is this server tick of 2 seconds that also does affect the barrage implant because it doesn't count all damage. So you're missing damage on the damage control, and you will be missing damage on the server tick. Now, this is a build with dual large extenders, a build that I recently started to use on my Cinnabal, and now have 97,000 hit points, a lot of shield, and you can easily slide in a shield extender unit for the passive shield boost. That's what I will do right now, which will give you about 5,000, 10,000 extra hit points. Again, very solid for tank. And now this Trollnado has a lot of buffer tank, a lot of shield, has good resistance, and it has good DPS as well as good speed. So basically, I combined everything I need into one ship, and this is now a tanky little boat with some scary looking DPS. And well, the more I look at this ship, the more I like it. Well, let's take a look at the active stats. This is also a PvP build that I use on most of my PvP ships. You scan the target and you drop this ship on 0 on the target, and then unload the turrets full fire, maximum firepower, and they will probably die pretty quickly. does work the same with level 15 or level 30 barrage implant. There is literally no difference. I went from 15 to 33, and yeah, wish I didn't. Level 15 did already a fantastic job. Okay, let's see the active stats that I can get out of this boat with this current layout. Okay, sorry for the weird cut. Now let's take a look at the active stats. 2032.93 meter per second is the micro warp drive speed. This is the medium micro warp drive. 8.8 thousand is the DPS with the barrage implant engaged. With one gyro stabilizer, it's 10,150.64, and with the second one, it's about 12,000, I believe. 11,395.03 DPS. That's a lot of DPS.
Warning.
With the extenders, you can activate both of them at the same time, although I would say activate one at a time. Basically use them when required and combine them with the damage control, and you can get a lot of damage absorbed that way. 305,000 hit points, which honestly is really good. I really do like the dual large extender build. It does give you a lot of buffer, and you still have a lot of DPS to go with that buffer rank. And for PvP, that seems to be working really well nowadays, and so far with all of my ships, barely any problem with it. Never failed so far, and everything went as smooth as possible. And of course, that's why I recommend that build. Okay, let me dock and let me show you a bunch more ideas. You can use a adaptive hardener as well, also a solid idea. My friends use a build similar to this one. You can also replace one gyro stabilizer into a tracking computer if you need extra tracking or extra range, also a pretty solid idea. You can also use a large micro warp drive if you have to quickly approach targets, because you already have a lot of power, but be sure that you have enough inertia to rotate and actually be able to approach the target without missing them. So let's do some target practice. I did promise that I will try the sniping implant, and I will try to hit some ships at some crazy distances. Now I personally expect the maximum lock distance or lock range to be added in, you know, the next balance patches that are literally around the corner. So I would say enjoy the crazy range as long as you can, because there's a big chance that it might get changed very soon. Would definitely be very interesting. So let me align myself towards the station. Micro warp drive is on, and now I'll be taking the range from the ships. Now when you go full speed, you will be able to hit the normal targets, cruisers, Battlecruisers, Now with my current general unit layout, with range in mind, I don't have enough tracking to hit small ships moving at 5 kilometers per second, but if I were to use if I were to replace or completely remove the general unit for the extra range, with the tracking computers I would be able to easily hit ships moving at this crazy speed. Of course, I would be limited to about 300-400 kilometers, but still I'll be able to easily hit them, and sometimes 1 or 2 hits is all you need to destroy a ship, especially with a tornado that it is known to have a very good alpha. The tornado has one of the highest alpha hits in the game, definitely one of the highest alpha hits out of any battlecruiser. It's very much comparable to the alpha hit that you can get on battleships. After all, it is using battleship turrets. It's an assault battlecruiser, they use large turrets. And soon I will turn off the micro warp drive, I will stop the ship. We are at 500 kilometers, that's basically the accuracy fall off that is on the turrets. Sniping implant is being charged. Again, a very nice looking effect on the sniping implant. Does look very interesting. Perhaps a thumbnail, who knows. And there goes the frigate, sniped from 509 kilometers. Alright, that was too easy. Well, let's do let's push the range to its limits. So, that was the first attempt, and now the sniping implant will be charged, so I can turn this off. And I will start moving away again, because my goal is to get around, 800, 700, 800, 900 kilometers. And if I'm able to hit a target from that distance, then the ship does pass the sniping test. About, I would say, 3000 alpha hit is enough to pop most ships, or at least enough to do some serious damage to a frigate, which is enough to be able to do a kill if you have the right build. Now you can easily go with more alpha damage, you can easily go with more DPS with different rigs, so with different rigs you might actually be able to pull off a higher alpha hit. A specialized sniper tornado will have a lot more alpha but less DPS, because the ship's rigs will be focused on the collision on the alpha hit from the turrets, and that's what I recommend you to do if you have one tornado for that specific purpose. Okay, 743 plus kilometers. Second attempt to destroy a frigate. Implant charging up. Implant charged up. Both tracking computers active. And the frigate has been deleted. Nice. Well, that's some fantastic range, not gonna lie. But it's still not what I was looking for. Let's move to 900 plus kilometers. That's the real deal. 900 plus kilometers. Can it hit from that distance? Well, we're about to find out. And this is only with 2 tracking computers, by the way. I could slap like 4 of them, and that would technically improve my range up to 25, 30, 45% with the unit, of course. So you still can't push the ship to its limits. There is always something that you can do to improve the range. Although not really a usable build, if you ask me, but in some cases it can be quite good, especially for a specialized sniper build. Alright, well, I'm going to 937, 940 kilometers, stopping the ship. Looks like I'll land at 970 plus kilometers, which is about 1,000, very close to 1,000, so I'm going to be satisfied with this. Okay, charging up the implant. Can I hit that Vexor? That's the question. From the moon. I'm shooting this thing's from so far away. Okay, everything is nice and ready. Now first I will do without the gyro stabilizer, and in the second attempt I will with the gyro stabilizer. 757 damage. Oh well. So it can hit the targets. And that's with only 2 tracking computers focused on maximum possible range. Alright, well. So, take number 2. This time I will use the gyro stabilizer to improve the damage. Charging up the implant. Charged up. Okay, everything is engaged. 3.4 thousands, which would be enough to pop a frigate. Well, it has range. It can hit at 1,000 kilometers with only 2 tracking computers. Can you imagine what I would do if with 3 or 4 of them? And you can also add more gyro stabilizers, so you can basically hit something at 1,000 kilometers. I find that hilarious, and that's why the Trollnado lives up to its name. It is indeed the troll ship of Eve, and everyone loves it. Now this is more of a high-sec PvE build. Basically the large Nosferatu maintains the afterburn and large booster, while the triple gyro stabilizers will maintain the DPS, and this does work really well with the barrage implant. The barrage implant is in a way better for PvE than the sniper implant. The sniping implant is more for PvP, for sniping of course. So currently the projectile turrets don't have a proper implant that's going to be really good for missions. They are mostly PvP implants. And that's fine, honestly. Every ship should have its purpose, although I'm fairly sure players would be very happy if they did have a cannon implant that can be used for PvE. There's a chance that it can actually replace the Apocalypse Tracker. There's always a chance that the Macarial takes over as the best PvE ship. Although, again, I don't really look running PvE as a competition. You run PvE at your own pace. You farm at your own pace, basically. That's what I believe, and so far I have no issues with that aspect of the game. Although most of my ships are PvP ships, I don't have any PvE ship. Technically, I think that's the case. Might be wrong, I don't know. So the Trollnado can have about the same DPS as a Macarial. Basically can have matching DPS with a battleship, and I think it's also not as expensive as a faction battleship or a normal tier 10 battleship. They're also indeed quite rare. Most players use the Trollnado 2 because it's a lot cheaper, and the difference between the Tornado 2 and 3 is minimal. Although the price difference is quite noticeable. And I believe the major difference is in the power grid. You can fit more large modules into the Tornado 3, although the DPS difference is not that big. I think both have the same high slot layout. I think the tier 8 version of the ship has 6 slots, although the tier 8 version of the ship I would say is the best one because it's so cheap and it can do so much. It's insane. One of the one of the best Battlecruisers in the game, if you ask me. It's ridiculously fun for PvP, it can also work for PvE, and it's very cheap. A perfect combination, honestly. Now most assault Battlecruisers have a lot of stabs. That's what I noticed. Most PvE assault Battlecruisers have like triple warp optimizers. They're all snipers, and they even have aura stabs in the low slots. And that seems to be, like, I would say, meta for assault Battlecruisers. Although I never really used them with stabs. Most of my ships were fully fledged snipers without stabs, but they used targeting rigs, insta-lock snipers. And I had high success with a build like that. Again, 3 years ago, when I started to fly the Tornado, I used to sit at 350 kilometers from my gate, and when a fleet came to crash our camp, I would basically stay, and I would shoot down any ship that stays on the gate, because no one actually knew that I did have so much range with the ship, and that's why I was so successful at the time. Basically a very similar build to the build I show you here. Triple tracking computers and dual gyro stabilizers, and that was enough to reach that far out to the target. It was a really fun time back then. It was a lot different, but you know, the Tornado is still a very fun ship to fly. Now the Tornado with the autocannons does work, although I personally feel like the ship is actually meant to be flown with the large artillery cannons as a sniper. However, in high sec we can easily do a close range brawler build, although the orbit should be about 35 to 40 kilometers, just because the tracking is not really there, and you might encounter the tracking difficulties against small targets. Basically, against smaller targets, keep at range. You don't orbit around a frigate or cruiser or destroyer. Against small ships, keep at range 40-50 kilometers. Against battlecruisers and battleships, you can easily orbit. The ship's tank can withstand the incoming fire. The afterburner actually allows it to be a good speed tank, although it doesn't look to be that fast. It's a fairly fast boat. After all, it's a Tornado named after a wind, so it better be fast. Now, how do I like the Tornado 3? You know, it's very difficult to get a really accurate description of the ship. It's good. It's definitely a fun little boat, but the price. Let me just quickly check how much this thing costs. I know that they are quite rare and you don't really see a lot of them. You see a lot of Tornado 2s because they're actually very similar, but the price is the thing that's preventing players from actually finding these a lot more, because the Tornado 2 is a lot more cost effective. So the Tornado 3 is 1.1 billion, almost 1.2 billion, while the Tornado 2 is 209 million, so the price is different a lot. Let's take a look at the stats. So -6 plus 5, okay. The Tornado 2 is -5 plus 5, so basically they're about the same ship in the description. The Tornado 3 has -1% extra large activation time on the large turrets. That's basically the only difference. But I believe the power is actually a lot different, and if you get this ship, you don't really, you're not really buying the Tornado with for the I guess for the difference between the between the 2 and 3, but you are mostly getting this ship for the extra power that allows you to do a lot more stuff with it. But let me first check that theory out in the powered series. So, for output 1390 on the 3, and on the 2 the pirate is 1344. Well, yeah, the difference is not that much. Although that actually, it might make a difference if you're trying to make a specific build. Not really sure if I can slap dual large extenders on the Tornado 2 without using a power rig, and if I do that I lose speed. So there are some minor gains on the 3 over the 2. Again, if you like the ship, then I guess you can easily get it. Although the Tornado 2 is a bit more cost effective, gives about the same performance for a much lower price. So there's a chance that the assault battlecruisers will be changed. After all, the balance patch is around the corner, and we all know that the initial nerfs are huge, big, and later on the nerfs get, I would say, balanced out. But sometimes, the nerf can be a bit more, and I believe we're gonna see something like that very soon. But how did the Tornado 3 perform right now? It performed really well. I'm very happy with the ship. It's a very fun to fly ship, in a way kind of unique, and overall definitely something that I will keep on my radar. After all, I'm still looking for new ships to fly, still looking for new PvP ships, and I really like the 6 slow slots on this thing. I can get some really scary DPS out of it, perhaps even better DPS than on the Cinnabel. After all, this thing is using the large turrets, and large turrets have a lot more damage than the medium ones. But in any case, that was the Tornado 3, one of my favorite hulls in all EVE, one of the most hilarious to fly ships in the game, one of the most fun to fly battlecruisers in the game, and perhaps one of the best battlecruisers in the game. So with that being said, I really hope that I could help you at building your own ship, or at least I hope that I was able to inspire you to come up with your own build. As always, if you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And I love you all. Fly safe, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.